We want to bring you up to speed, though, on what's been going on in the investigation into the shooting on the set of Rust. That is that Alec Baldwin movie in which Alec Baldwin, during a rehearsal, practicing a cross draw with a firearm, shot and killed director Helena Hutchins and wounded director Joel Souza. It's a terrible, terrible case, a very sad case. Alec Baldwin spoke out for the first time over the weekend. Some paparazzi was following him up in Vermont, and he pulled over on the side of the road and said, "Look, Helena Hutchins was my friend. He's in constant contact with her husband. She had a young 9-year-old son." And he said he's been ordered not to say anything by Santa Fe Sheriff's Office detectives about the investigation. This is an ongoing criminal investigation. A lot of blame is being tossed around. You've got the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. She's 24 years old. This was her second job as an armorer. And, you know, her lawyers are saying, look, she had 2 jobs on this set. You know, safety was her primary concern, but, you know, she was overwhelmed. Now, Dave Halls, the man who, according to search warrant affidavits, actually handed the gun to Alec Baldwin right before he started practicing this cross draw. Dave Halls' attorney was on Fox News yesterday with Martha McCallum on the story. And Martha McCallum really asked the lawyer, Lisa Tarraco, a lot of tough questions about David Halls and his role on the film, his safety record, and the fact that the search warrant affidavits quote him as saying, you know, I should have checked the gun before I handed it to Alec Baldwin, and he couldn't remember if the drum of the revolver was spun. He only remembers seeing 3 rounds. So let's look at a little bit of that interview from the story.
Here's what I'm trying to tell you. When I answer a question, I want to make sure that it's consistent with all of the facts. I don't want to answer a question to you and later be proven wrong. So we've tried, that's why we haven't spoken out for over a week, is I want to make sure that I've got the facts right. I have received information from crew members that the armor handed it directly to Baldwin, and then Baldwin put it inside where his holster would be. And then at some point, he pulled the firearm out and he wanted to adjust the holster, and then he hands the firearm to Mr. Halls, who immediately hands it right back after he's adjusted the holster. Other witnesses have said that the armor brought the firearm in, that they checked the firearm, that my client checked the firearm, there was another crew member that checked the firearm, and that she handed it to him like a pass-through, and that he then handed it immediately over to Baldwin because he was between the two. So I can't tell you verbatim what happened.
Court's aware.
Okay, and that was Lisa Tarraco. She was a lawyer for Dave Halls, the assistant director on Rust, who was quoted in search warrant affidavits as being the person who handed the revolver to Alec Baldwin right before he started practicing that cross draw and pulled it out and turned toward the camera and fired the weapon with the live round in it, which wasn't supposed to have live rounds. I want to bring Lisa Lockwood in to talk about this. Lisa, I've been really, really wanting to talk about this with you because I know that you are very knowledgeable about guns and very passionate about gun safety. So his attorney seems to kind of be countering some of the assertions that were made in the direct quotes from Dave Halls in these search warrant affidavits, in which he says he said cold gun and handed the gun to Alec Baldwin, and that he only saw 3 of the rounds, and he should have checked it, and he can't remember if Hannah spun the drum for him to check it. That all sounds very, very much like they are kind of flipping the script, or at least trying to, at least with that interview with Fox News.
It sure does, and this was really enlightening. I'm glad you showed that piece, because everything in the reporting in the initial days after the shooting occurred was that there was the chain of custody was armorer, direct to Dave Hall, and then to Alec Baldwin. And I know with safety, and especially on sets, I've been learning as I've been going along as well with what is the protocol. And it should be armor directly to the actor, and there should be a weapons check in that moment. So the armor does the check, and then as they hand it to the actor who's actually going to use that piece of equipment, the gun, they show them physically that it is empty. So now we have this other piece of the puzzle is that armor hands it to Dave Hall. Dave Hall hands it to him. This lawyer is now countering, saying that no, armor did hand it to Alec Baldwin. So if that was the case, she failed in not showing him that it was empty. So if he was adjusting his gun belt and said, hey, hang on to this while I need both of my hands to adjust my gun belt, then, you know, he's out of the picture and he's completely safe in what he did because the protocol would have been followed accordingly. But there were a lot of misses in this, and I think the biggest miss is the safety protocol of showing Alec that that weapon was empty, loaded with blanks, or, as he said, the statement was made, cold gun. If Dave said that and did not do the check, then the onus would be on him.
Yeah,
as
and what
well
I think is
as the
interesting
armorer.
about that is, yeah, what I think is interesting about that, Lisa, is if he's saying cold gun, as quoted in the search warrant affidavits, that's where we're getting that information. If he's saying that, you would have to think he would have looked at the gun or at least handled the gun in order to make that claim, right?
100%, because that's the initial reporting that we received. And if that wasn't the search warrant, and even Alec Baldwin said, why did somebody give me a hot gun? That people were saying cold gun. It was heard auditorily from other people who were in proximity of that shot. So if he made that statement, yes, you better believe it was his job to make sure that that was indeed a cold gun, even if it came from the armorer. That chain of custody was broken from armorer to the actor, and he was in the middle of it.
Yeah, Lisa, I think it's obviously we all know this is a tragedy, and the attorney for David Halls did offer her condolences. I want to mention that, and says that everybody, is distraught and devastated by this. But it'll be interesting to see what comes of this whole investigation, because the sheriff said there was complacency on the set, and he said, don't call this an accident. It's a criminal investigation. So as a former law enforcement official, tell me the difference between an accident and a criminal investigation.
Well, an unforced error, an accident, and something that's unforced, meaning that an armorer is supposed to make sure that there are blanks or it is completely empty. So something that just makes a pop noise or a projectile that comes out that's not deadly. So that is the armorer's job. The unforced error is the fact that there were live rounds on that set, that people were allegedly target practicing leading up to that day just to have fun. And that actual weapon that was used to kill Miss Hutchins, I'm sorry, I forgot her name in the moment, but the actual weapon that was used to kill her ended up having a live round. So why were live rounds on the set? What is the safety protocol? And could Alec Baldwin potentially be facing a lawsuit civilly based on that those protocols were not followed?